Hello, everyone. My guest today is Nader Fathi. He's a serial entrepreneur and veteran of the big data and IoT industry, currently the CEO of Kiana Analytics, a cloud-based company that helps brick-and-mortar businesses to strengthen on-site security and understand visitor behavior. His last company was successfully acquired by Siemens. He's currently on the Computer Science Advisory Board of the University of Southern California. He's also a board member of Asia America Multi-Technology Association and also an executive in residence at the Plug and Play Tech Center in Silicon Valley and Alley by Verizon in Palo Alto. Nader, are you ready to take us to the top?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yep.
So talk to us about Kiana Analytics. What's the company do and what's the revenue model? How do you make money?
Sure. So Kiana Analytics is in the space we call IoP, Internet of Persons. What we do is that we can basically identify devices and location, and we use this technology to basically help brick and mortar to better understand their customer journey, as well as use it for physical security. The way we charge, this is a SaaS model, recurring revenue. We charge per square footage per month.
Okay, and coverage is based off what? A signal, a satellite, a physical installation of something?
No, basically what we do is that we can detect all the Wi-Fi devices on, let's say, mobile phone or your laptop or whatnot. We also do this with Bluetooth. And recently we announced that we are also working with Verizon and 5G. As you know, 5G is the next generation cell signal. And we are doing this for the first responders, police, firemen, and so on and so forth, to be able to help first responders to get to the victims quicker and be able to help them.
Now, how does it work, though? Do you have a piece of hardware that scans all the Wi-Fi connections in a certain radius? Like, how does it actually work?
No. So basically what happens if you're walking, let's say, a cell phone, and there's a Wi-Fi chip in there, and the phone is basically pinging the access point in the building. What it does, it's emitting signals. So our customers, they basically open a channel to the Wi-Fi access point in the building. That data comes to our cloud. The minimum set of data we look at is the time, location, and the device ID, which is called the MAC ID. And based on that, basically, we can see the foot traffic in a physical location. We can see dwell time. We can see new versus repeat. The beauty of our solution is that we do not put any software on the device itself. So you don't have to download an app or whatnot on the mobile phone.
It's just intercepting the signal when it pings the Wi-Fi access point.
That's
correct.
correct.
Is it software not there? Is there any hardware?
No hardware at all. No,
it's all software.
Purely a SaaS software, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Just using multiple data centers.
So when you say you charge per square foot per month, how do you measure the area you cover? That's what I'm asking.
So basically, let's take an office building. An office building could be 30,000 square foot. That's the size of the building. So that's an area our customers want to cover. So they basically pay us $30,000 times, whatever, let's say 10 cents a square foot per month. So that's their monthly charge of that area that they want to cover.
We don't have time to go on every customer cohort. I'm sure you have a lot of them, but on average, what's a customer pay you per month or per year to utilize your technology?
So it really depends. I mean, we have, for example, we're working with a very large organization which has 400 sites across the globe. We have smaller places. So it could be, as low as, tens of thousands a month. It could be as high as $250,000 a year. So it really depends on how large of a venue you want to cover.
Yeah, Nader, again, totally understand that. I want to talk about the rest of your story, but I'm going to pinpoint you a little bit harder on this. So, I mean, is it fair to say maybe an average customer is going to pay you 10 grand a month? Is that a kind of a fair average?
That's probably too large. No, the average customer could be somewhere between, 5,000 to 5,000 to 6,000 a month. That
could
be an average customer. Correct.
Very good. Thanks for doing that. Put this on a timeline for me. When did you launch the company? What year?
So we launched the company roughly about 5 years ago, and we started by a big Wi-Fi company asked us to build this solution for them.
Which one?
And we did. It's actually, the company is called Fortinet, which is a big Wi-Fi and a security company. And since then, we have expanded our solution to cover HP, Aruba, Cisco, and other Wi-Fi manufacturers as well.
So was Fortinet your first paying customer? It was like essentially a contract to build it for them, and then you kept rights to resell the software to other people?
No, Fortinet basically is a reseller of our product. They're white labeling our product as FortiPresence, and they still have been selling it, and they have been our channel to get out to all the worldwide customers.
So give me an example of a buyer of this. Like, is WeWork a buyer? Is that the average kind of buyer, someone like WeWork?
No, a buyer could be an airport. Actually, if you look at an airport, they have two major requirements. Number one, of course, for what they call proximity services. They want to make sure you spend time at the airport. They want to make sure you go to duty free. They want to make sure you go to the restaurants and so on. So they really think about them as a big mall. But the other issue that airports have, of course, is security, right? They want to make sure the right people are at the right place, and so on and so forth. So in that case, they're using both what we call Kiana Engage, which is really an engagement solution, as well as Kiana Secure, which is used for physical security. So this is an example of an airport.
So would you say your first 10 customers came from the Fortinet kind of white label?
Correct. Yes. Correct.
And how are you adding customers today? What's the main growth channel?
So again, a lot of it is done through channels such as Fortinet. We work with HP Aruba, as I mentioned. They're introducing us to customers. But in some cases, we sell direct. For example, we have two projects with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security with their Science and Technology Group, which has to do with the airports and with the border. So in that case, we actually sold that technology directly to the government.
Interesting. Okay, so you launched in 2014. You get your first 10 customers from Fortinet. How many customers are you now serving today?
So we are in 50 countries, as I mentioned, worldwide. I would say 200 plus customers with multiple sites across the globe.
Okay, fair enough. And then have you decided to bootstrap the company, or did you decide to take dilution and raise?
So we actually have raised money. We have raised money from investors in Silicon Valley. And and then we also have cash, of course, from the customers, from the recurring revenue. So that's how the.
So how much capital have you raised to date?
We raised roughly about $3.5 million so far into the company.
Okay.
And we are raising more.
How much do you want to raise? How much do you want to raise now? What do you think the right amount is?
We are raising about $6 to $7 million to really boost our sales and marketing organization.
And do you believe, are you going to do that on a kind of a priced equity round?
It is going to be a price equity round. Yes, we already have a couple of lead investors that we're working with in this round. Correct.
Well, obviously, you're still negotiating it, but what valuation would make you really, really happy to raise that at?
So, I mean, at this level of the company, we're looking for roughly about $20 to $25 million pre. That's what the plan is at this point.
Yeah, so you'll sell something between like 15 and 20% of the company.
That is correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay. And then talk to me about kind of historical metrics, right? Churn is really critical in a SaaS company, especially if you're going to pour money on sales and marketing with this raise.
Sure.
What's your churn look like today, and how do you keep it low?
So the churn is pretty small. I would say it's less than 5%. And the way you do
that's
this
monthly or annually?
That's annual.
And revenue based or logo based?
This is logo based. And the way you do this is that you make this, mission critical. So the customers rely on this. Of course, having good customer support is really important to make sure the customers are happy and they're getting the value on the dollar amount. I mean, you understand the big issue with SaaS is you don't sell it once. You have to show value almost every month as you go forward.
Yep. What do you know that a new sign-up has to do in the first year to like definitely renew in the second year? What are some of the activation metrics?
So basically, first of all, one of the things that we start seeing is that customers are now signing multi-year contracts. Actually, we start seeing a lot of 3-year contracts from customers. But usually what happens is that we start with a 30-day trial showing the value. Again, remember, we are really in a data analytics business. So we
Nader, sorry, be specific. I'm really asking, what is the value? So is it X number of installs and tracking X number of Wi-Fi pings per week? Like, what's the actual activation metric?
So the customer is really looking to see how many people are in the physical location and are they going to the right places that they want to. And that is very important to having that real-time visibility. They call it, we are turning invisible to visible, and being able to see this in real time. That's what is really important to them. And they wanted to see day after day, right? That's the big value.
And for someone to pay you $5,000 though per month, about how many like foot traffic per day would you need to be tracking for it to give them real value?
So it really depends. I mean, we're working with a very large mall that they are seeing, close to 60 to 80,000 visitors per day, right? So that's one example. But we're also working with a pharmaceutical company, which they are very concerned to make sure the wrong people don't, end up in their factories, right? So in that case, they're not really looking for the numbers, but they're looking to make sure that the people, exact security and geofencing, right? Make sure the right people are in the right place and nobody from outside getting there.
For the cohort of customers you signed up 1 year ago, so 5% of the revenue were churn. How much do you upsell them? What percent do you upsell them?
I would say, so we started with our Kiana Engage, which was really the commercial proximity services product. And then we have gone and now selling Kiana Secure, which is on top of that, right? So I will say today we're probably about 10 to 15% of our customers are being upsell. We hope to do more of that going forward, especially now that not only Wi-Fi, but we're also covering Bluetooth as well as 5G down the road.
Okay, so when you just look at revenue, right, annual revenue from the cohort a year ago, 5% of the revenue churned, 15% of it expanded. So net revenue retention is at 110%.
That is correct from the existing customers. But remember, we are adding.
I'm only talking about existing.
Yeah.
Very good. And then talk to me about team size. How many people?
So we are about 20 people. Half of the company is here in Silicon Valley. The other half is in Germany, outside of Berlin. The reason for that is, as you mentioned in my intro, we were able to exit our last company to Siemens, and we were able to hire some of those key people back to help us with the data analytics, machine learning, and AI work that we are doing.
I imagine you're driving growth, which means you're burning capital. How aggressive are you being? Are we talking $100,000 a month or more in terms of burn?
Yeah, it's about $100,000 is what the burn is today at the moment. Correct, right. Mm-hmm. And again, remember, we are covering worldwide and so on. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and the economics around burn relative to your fundraise you're working on, I always like to understand how much buffer you CEOs have built in for themselves. So how much runway do you have left in the bank to give yourself enough time to do the raise?
Oh, I mean, in our case, we have about 9 months plus, revenue. Again, we have some large contracts also coming in. So yeah, that's not an issue there.
Okay. So 9 months of runway and you're burning $100K. I mean, that means you're saying you got about 800, 900 grand in the bank right now.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
The other thing I want to touch on, which is very important, is that we also have built a very nice patent portfolio. Some of the, which have been granted, by the way, by the U.S. Patent.
Have you defended them?
Really differentiates. We haven't defended them, but again, the patents have been issued, and I think one of the reasons customer to us because those are some of the key differentiations we have versus some of the.
But come on, Nader, we know patents are worthless until you defend them, right? Then they're really worth something.
Oh, yeah. Well, what we are doing is pretty unique. Nobody has been able to do actually what we are doing in those cases there. And let me just talk about this. Number one is that we see all connected and detected devices. It means if you have a device which is on, without you logging in, we can see all those devices. And then the second thing that we do is to fuse this data with cameras. Let me quickly talk about this. If there is an armed robbery and the bad guys are wearing a mask, your facial recognition is useless. But what we do is that we take the picture from cameras and fuse that with the device IDs that we see, right? So we can go back in time and say, do we have a picture of anybody with the same device? Although he's not wearing a mask at that time there. And that's some of the unique differentiation that we have.
And that's assuming he doesn't have a stolen cell phone or anything like that.
Exactly right. If he doesn't have a phone or the phone is off or somebody else's phone, that is correct.
And assuming you happen to have coverage in that other spot, like the airport or something where he or she was.
Yeah, I mean, most of our coverage are per sites. Like, for example, we had an example in a mall where the bad guy shows up with a mask and they stole some good material they had there, but they were also there last week at the same mall without the mask, checking out the place, right? So in that case, we were able to identify who they were.
That's very cool. How many unique kind of IDs are in your system at this point? Are we talking hundreds of millions?
The 495 millions we have seen so far.
And now those are individual humans because maybe there's 2 devices on average per person, right?
2 devices. Some of them could be equipment. Remember, your printer also has a device ID, right? So yes. So one of the actually provisional patents that we are working on right now is how do we associate multiple devices to the same person, right? For example, my headset and my laptop and my phone may be traveling together, right? So how do we know all those 3 belong to one person there?
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, very good. And then talk to me about how you're getting new customers. So for $5,000 a month, are you willing to spend kind of full first year ACV to get the customer in terms of CAC?
Sure. So we get customers 3 different ways today. So number one is that, of course, social media, like what we're doing today, really helps because a lot of people don't know this technology exists. That's number one. The second one are channel. Remember, we have three channels that we're working on. The hardware manufacturers, the people who build Wi-Fi and cameras, they want to make those smarter, so they resell our product. We also have system integrators, which are interested in our product. And then last but not least is carriers. As I mentioned, the work we are doing with Verizon and others. So those are channels that we use. And in some cases, we attend, events. We were just at IoT World and so on and so forth. So that's how people learn about it.
But Nader, you're about to raise and you want to double down on sales and marketing. You have a built out pro formas around CAC because that's how you come up with salesperson like onboarding time, their quota attainment, their OTEs, etc. So what do you assume it costs you fully weighted to get a new $60,000 a year customer?
I will say it's going to take us, probably half of that initially. So, 20 to 30,000 to really get the customer.
So 6-month payback period, something like that.
That is correct.
Okay,
exactly.
That's great.
Again, this is a B2B, enterprise sale. So it's not, it's not an app that people just download, right? So sales cycles could be long. Correct.
And then last thing here, fix my numbers here. I think they're wrong. You said earlier you have about 200 customers. You said average was about $5,000 a month, but I think this is too high. When I multiply those together, that would put you at $1 million a month. Which of those numbers is too high, the average or the customer count?
Well, again, as I mentioned, the customers, they are all over the map. We have customers who have, very small location. We have customers who have multiple.
Well, yeah, but Nader, that's what average means.
Right.
So is the average of 5,000 probably too high?
Probably too high.
Okay,
exactly.
Got it.
Good point.
It's okay. It's okay. That happens all the time, by the way, because see, you're probably focused more on your enterprise deals. That's why that's what comes to mind. I guess. So let me ask you a question. What's the next big revenue target for this year?
Okay, so we're doing two major things this year. Number one is that, as I mentioned, we're getting a lot of interest from airports worldwide, both in Asia as well as US and North America. And that is a big interest for us. And then the other one, the work that we were doing with the DHS, we want to be able to take that and actually apply it to the corporate campuses as well. So those are the big.
But Nader, sorry, what's the big revenue target for this year? In other words, if you break 2 million in ARR by the end of this year, you're going to be really happy. What's like the stretch goal target for this year?
3 million is what we are targeting for.
And what are you at right now?
We are halfway there.
Okay, so you're at about 1.5 million run rate right now.
A little bit higher, correct?
Is it realistic to think you can double over the next 6 months?
Yes, we have a whole bunch of interesting work which is now converting into contracts, correct?
Okay, got it. So 1.5 million in terms of run rate right now would mean you're doing something more like $130,000 per month, right? So across 200 customers, that means the average is more like $600 per month. I just want to make sure that is actually, those numbers all check out. That's a way lower ACV than $5,000 a month.
It's lower than we think we have, but based on your math, it looks correct.
And then where, in terms of historical growth rate, so if you're doing, call it 1.5 million in ARR today, where were you exactly a year ago? Do you remember?
So basically, our plan has to be 3, and 2. That's really what we want to do, right? So
you tripled over the past 12 months?
That's correct.
So you're doing about $40,000 a month about a year ago?
That is correct.
That's healthy.
And then we expect the following year to do the same, and then eventually flats out, right? You go 2x and 2x after that.
That's very
really
good.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Let's wrap up with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
Favorite book is actually the book that Horowitz wrote, which
Hard
is
Thing About Hard Things.
Hard Things About Hard Things. Ben
Number
Horowitz,
2, is
correct.
there a CEO you're following or studying?
Oh, definitely. I have looked at Steve Jobs. I like, Elon Musk, and of course the key CEOs in Silicon Valley. Right?
Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building your company?
I love LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great. It's really, helps to get to the right people, understand who the customers are, and I found that to be very powerful, much more than other social media.
Number 4, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
I get actually a good 7 to 8 hours a night. That's very important.
And what's your situation? Married, single, kiddos?
I am married, 2 kids, one at Apple, one at Google.
Oh, how fun. And how old are you?
I'm sorry?
How old are you?
I am 59.
59. Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew? I
would have started the company much earlier. I would be an entrepreneur much earlier than when I started when I was in my 40s.
Guys, Kiana helping making all those Wi-Fi devices you connect to at the airports more valuable by helping the airports understand location-based data based off Wi-Fi pings. They have over 200 customers, with some of them with many, many locations. They're doing about $1.5 million in ARR right now, hoping to double over the next 6 months. They tripled over the past 12 months from $40,000 a month just a year ago. They're burning about $100,000 a month right now, raised about $3.5 million. Team of 20, annual revenue churn about 5%, expansion 15%, for net revenue retention of 110%, spending 30 grand to get a new $60,000 customer. So call it, again, quick payback period there. They're hoping to raise about $6 million right now on, call it, a $20 to $25 million pre-money valuation. Nader, we're rooting for you, man. Thanks for taking us to the top.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.